Welcome to XConnect. My name is Kareem Kanji. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. This is our fourth interview with our Game Connect series. Look forward to having many of you at our Game Connect panel event. Just go to gameconnect.eventbrite.com for all the information and to attend. Today I'm very excited to have our last guest for this series. This is Nicholas Murphy, founder CEO of GameDay.
That's correct. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for dropping by.
My pleasure.
Now, if people were to go on LinkedIn and check you out, they would see that you've started a number of different, projects or companies in the technology/sports arena.
Right.
Why don't we talk a bit about your most recent foray, which is GameDay. What is GameDay InterActive? What is that all about? What are you attempting to do with this company?
Well, GameDay InterActive is a mobile application, and it's been designed to sort of bridge that gap between the consumer and the advertiser or broadcaster by giving the consumer more interaction with the game itself.
With the game that they're watching on TV?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, the consumer watches a game or live sports event on television on their big screen, and then on their mobile device, whether it be the smartphone, laptop, or tablet, they can interact with that event by answering questions relating to the game that we're going to push to the consumers during the game.
Okay. Now, what is the background in terms of creating some sort of a platform outside of their viewing experience that they have to engage with them? What's the demand from the networks? What's the demand from the advertisers for something like GameDay?
Well, I think, with the advent of social media in its present form, I think advertisers and marketers are looking for ways to connect with the consumer on a more intimate level, if you will. And to this point, you'll notice on reality shows, for instance, they'll hashtag the show.
Yeah.
And so to get people involved. But this takes everything to a whole new level, because what we're actually trying to do is to create a relationship between the brand and the consumer.
The brand and the consumer. And so, why not have that sort of game, or that game experience on the network itself, rather than on their handheld device? Or, because if it's the handheld device, I'm assuming would be some brand mentions. It would be maybe the game is sponsored by a brand. What's the thought behind, let's take it from the television or from the big screen, maybe they're in a bar or whatever the case may be, and let's give it to them on their iPhone, on their Android, or whatever?
Well, first of all, it's more mobile, and secondly, our game in its current iteration does not allow for the rebroadcast of the game, so the consumer must watch the game on their main screen and then interact with the event through their tablet or smartphone.
Excellent. It seems that projects like this or ideas like this are born out of live events, such as sporting events. What is it about, I guess, sporting events in particular, that lends itself to creating mobile games?
Well, I think up until now, it's just been a very, very passive type of environment. The fans, especially for people at home. Yet, they have. There was an interesting quote I read today, and it went something like this: that if it wasn't for football, that NBC would be reduced to cable network ratings.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that goes to show you how popular sports is on television. But this is an opportunity, as I said, for that broadcaster like NBC or a sponsor of the actual event to get close to the consumer, to ask them questions, and actually develop a relationship with them.
Would you say that the emotional bond and emotional ties that viewers have with sports plays a large role? When you're watching a game, it's like, you hope your team wins, or like you said, you give the example of the NFL. A lot of people talk about betting in the NFL and television. Maybe you put some money down, or maybe you're in a fantasy pool. Does that play a role, you feel, in whether or not GameDay or companies like this succeed or not?
I think to a degree. I think it's all going to boil down to the user experience. Of course, gaming for money in this country is not legal, or anywhere in North America for that matter. But
Yeah.
the day is coming when those rules and regulations are going to change, and that may become part of the mainstream effort where advertisers and brands are concerned. But right now, it's just a matter of, I think, obviously there's no clear leader in this field at the moment, so it's a pretty level playing field. But I think going forward, it's whoever can create the best user experience is going to win out.
There's a lot of, when people think of mobile games, they think of games in isolation. You pick up your phone or your tablet and you play the game. Not a lot of people think about a real life experience. They could literally be going to a ball game, live, and be able to use something like GameDay InterActive, or watching it at the sports bar, or watching it at home, and then that kind of dual screen experience. I'm wondering if you can kind of talk a little bit about, what makes a dual screen experience much different than, the single screen experience.
Well, with the single screen experience, you're basically just watching the game. It's a passive endeavor here. With the second screen, we can create all kinds of other applications, allowing the consumer to actually interact with the main screen. So I think the second screen technology is going to be one that's really going to have a high impact in the consumer space going forward.
Let's talk more about GameDay and what's going on. You're presently, I guess, incubating in Cubes here in Toronto. Where are you along the process? Do you have a first version out? Are people able to use it? Where are you in terms of that process?
We're currently in the early development stage. We do have a working demo, and our technical team is still being put together to finalize the product. We don't have a final version yet, because we believe very strongly that when we bring some major sponsors on board, that their agencies of record might want to have some input into how this is presented to the consumer. So we're working on the back end technology part of it, but as far as the user interface goes, well, we're leaving that sort of open at the moment, although we do have an iteration of that.
Fantastic. And you've got a demo day coming up, I believe?
Yes, we do. We have a demo day coming up on September the 12th, where GameDay InterActive, along with my other cohorts in Cubes, are going to be presenting to a large group of investors.
You excited about that?
Oh, very excited. Very excited.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never been in an environment like this, and I highly recommend it for people who want to start their own business. If they think that they've got something that could be special going forward, they should really investigate the startup community.
What's your experience been like at InCubes? And you said you would recommend that. What has the experience been that you have found to be very valuable to yourself?
Well, it's an incredible team of people led by Ben Zlotnick and Travis Corey, and when they bring mentors in, such as yourself, to speak with us, I can't tell you how valuable that experience is. It's just tremendous.
Fantastic. Now, I also alluded to you having started other companies similar to that. Before we started taping this conversation, you were talking to me about sports brokerage.
Yes.
Said that you started about 10 years ago, you were telling me, and maybe the timing's right now. Tell me a little bit about that. What was the name of it again?
It was called the ProSports Exchange.
ProSports Exchange. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that. What was the idea behind ProSports Exchange?
The idea behind the ProSports Exchange was to create a virtual stock market for professional sports teams, where players could start a sports portfolio, a virtual portfolio, and then earn dividends, dividends based on the real world performance of those teams. It had nothing to do with the financial side of the teams, but the actual performance of those teams on the field, and that being reflected in their share price. A very, very dynamic game when you take into account the kind of sports fans that are around the world. I mean, I heard recently that Manchester United, by the way, which is already publicly traded in the UK,
Yes.
and now publicly traded in New York, have more than 500 million fans around the world. So, you know, that just goes to, I think it speaks to the level of interest that there is in sports. And I think that, you know, because there's this whole transparency to sports, as opposed to what's happening in the real markets, that it would make it very interesting to the average sports fan.
That's very interesting. Now, you had mentioned that idea that you had was too early for its time. And you had mentioned that, you know, now is probably the right time. I'm curious about that. Why was it too early? Why do you feel that now's the right time?
Well, mainly because the idea was really pre-social media, at least social media as we know it today.
Sure.
You know, social media has been around in one form or another for, you know, since the beginning of the internet, with chat rooms and forums and things like that. So it's the present day iteration, if you will, of social media that makes it probably a more you know, it has an ability to really connect with consumers, because we've got a much broader reach of people through the social media as it is today. So that's why I think that it would be, that the timing was too early for it then, and it might be better served today.
Fantastic. Now, you've been in this industry for about 12 years plus?
Yep.
What has changed in terms of the games that you're seeing today versus the games you saw when you started there at the beginning of the 21st century?
Well, I mean, even 10 years ago, there just wasn't the same kind of games available, you know, across the internet. It's just become prolific. I mean, you know, the term gamification is just being applied to so many things, and I think it's inherent in people. They want to experience playing for some reason. Maybe as we get older, you know, we're not kids, we're not playing in the sandbox anymore, so as we become adults, we want to play in that sandbox. And maybe that relating to a game of any kind sort of takes us back to that sandbox.
Interesting. You talk about, I like that, digital sandbox. That's
digital sandbox, that's what it is.
That's a great name.
Yeah, digital sandbox. Maybe we should start a company called Digital Sandbox.
We'll do that.
Okay, we're going to register right now.
I'll check it out. But speaking of that, you know, you talk about this term gamification. You know, there's a lot. That term seems to be, you know, thrown about. You know, let's gamify this, let's do that. What, in your opinion, what does it actually mean to gamify something? What does the term gamification mean? You know, to someone like you who's been in gaming, online gaming, for many years now.
Well, let me use the example of the ProSports Exchange. Okay?
Sure.
You know, it's basically a trading platform, which in itself, I mean, unless you want to consider the stock exchanges around the world to be a game, then you know.
One could argue that.
Well, you could argue that they are games in a sense. But so when you take something so corporate and you make it fun and you draw, you know, people that might not normally be in that space into it, then I think that is probably the gamification of that. To be honest with you, I mean, the word gamification has many meanings, and it's just a matter of the context in which it's used, I guess.
That's true. You know, there's been online games, now there's mobile games.
Yes.
And now there's mobile games where, you know, you're watching one screen and playing on a second screen. What do you think is the next iteration of, you know, I guess we can call it online gaming? What's the next iteration you feel?
Well, if I knew the answer to that, Kareem, we wouldn't probably be sitting here doing it. But very, very good question. It's hard to say. I like to think of myself as a visionary, but unfortunately, I don't have the ability to see around corners. But I do see the whole process just amplifying in the future, and more and more people. I mean, you know, companies like Zynga are just showing such a they're showing such huge numbers of people that want to play games now. And you know, most recently, Facebook going into the UK and you know, going into the gaming business in the UK is another example of that. So I think going forward, you're going to see a lot more gaming and gamification in the future.
What has social media done to impact, and I think it's been a growth, it has really helped to grow online gaming. And, you know, you talk about Facebook and Zynga, and you know, they're very tightly linked the success of both of these companies. How has social media positively impacted gaming? And is gaming relying too much now on social media?
Again, another very good question. It's hard to say. I think Facebook has, obviously it's the platform of choice. Nobody can ignore their, billion user database. So it seems like every company that's trying to gamify their product is using Facebook as a touch point and login point. So to that end, what can I say? I mean, social media has such an impact on everything that we do in the world today. It's hard not to believe that it's not going to continue to evolve, and who knows what's going to happen down the road.
Fantastic. Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming by.
I really appreciate you having me.
And sharing your thoughts. Where can people find out more information about what it is that you're putting together?
Well, they can go to GameDay InterActive.com and see what we've got set up there. We're in the early stages of trying to create a database of people that we can market our progress to, and we should be up and running in the next little while.
Fantastic. And again, your demo date is?
September the 12th.
September the 12th. Yep. So check out Nicholas Murphy, CEO of GameDay InterActive. September the 12th is launch day and demo day, and hopefully we'll be able to track your progress from now until then and beyond. And thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Kareem Kanji. You can follow me on Twitter @KareemKanji, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Bye-bye.